were
Well, I
saying,
was saying
yeah,
that the system is really even more stacked now. The system has always been stacked in many ways. When you go back, even if you look at the Constitution, it's stacked against poor people, working people, certainly women. Look, the slaves were considered only two-thirds of a person. Constitution was always stacked. What has happened over the whatever number of years since then has been that there have been people, including minorities like Chicanos, Latinos, and others, blacks certainly, who have been working to refashion that Constitution, to enlarge it, to make it more democratic. And we've made a lot of strides in that, but still there's been a lot of still roadblocks and uh, obstacles to fully engaging, so that all people are treated totally equally and have equal opportunities. And the only way, historically and even now, is for people to fight back, and not violently, not with arms, but like the marches that we've seen, uh, you know, and July 4th was still another example, but the ones on the King Day, on the supposedly we don't accept a king. There was demonstrations, huge ones all over the place. Here in Santa Barbara, we went to our local one. There was about 10,000 people. We're a small city, 80,000. That was huge. So only by people fighting back, and that's been part of my work as a historian, to show how people have fought back against the system, the stack system, to try to gain more freedom, more liberties, more abilities uh, to have mobility, to have a good life, and so forth. So it's not a secret or a mystery of how to fight back. History tells us how to fight back. So we have
protests,
The Chicano movement,
human power.
so-called direct action into the streets. Why? Because, as you started earlier, Stefan, you can't really trust the system. The system is stacked in favor of rich white people.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that was from the very beginning, right? And if not, they would have freed the slaves and included them as part of the country. They would have given women the right to vote. They would have given people who didn't own property, like a lot of people who were basically working people, they would have given them the right to vote, but of course they didn't. So, the whole point is, I think that history tells us how we've been able to enlarge democratic rights, and that is through people just coming together, using their bodies, people power, direct action peacefully in the streets, engaging in the electoral system where gains can be made that will enlarge that democratic freedom. And my role has been basically as a historian to examine the history of Chicanos, Mexican Americans in this country, to show the conditions that they've had to live in or under, but also especially how Chicanos have made history, how Mexican Americans have made history. I say that, to me, I don't. I'm not interested in the victimization of history.
Yeah.
In other words, I understand that Chicanos and other minorities have been victimized by the system. I understand that, and I've written about it and I've researched that. But I'm also more interested in how Chicanos, for example, have made history, And one of the ways that they've done it is ways that I've mentioned already, through struggles and so forth. Back already in the 1930s, beginning to join the union movement. I've written about Bert Corona. That was the very first testimonial oral history that I did of Bert Corona back. It was published in, let's see, that was in 1995, I believe, or 94.
And he was a
Bert
labor
Corona,
organizer in
oh
LA.
yeah, it was a giant in Chicano Latino history. And in the 1930s, he, by the way, was from El Paso too.
Oh, no
So there's
kidding.
an interesting El Paso connection. He graduated from El Paso High. My mother went to El Paso High. And Bert then came to LA, where he had family. And he initially was at USC to show how people, Chicanos, have made history, how they have developed, have had a history of strong leadership, and how you can make change, but the change has to come from the bottom. Again, I tell my students, major changes in this country have never come from the top.
Mm-hmm.
They've never come from the top. They always come from the bottom. People forcing the system, as I've already mentioned, to make changes, to make inroads. Well, Chicanos have had that kind of a history too.